एक बहुत कॉमन डाउट जो बच्चों के मन में रहता है इज मैम Tier-3 NLU लें या फिर हम किसी प्राइवेट कॉलेज के लिए ऑप्ट करें। सिम्बायोसिस, ओपी जिंदल, Christ University, internships, good corporate firms, NLU holds that tag for you. International recognition with many private colleges. Hello students, एक बहुत common doubt जो बच्चों के मन में रहता है is मैम Tier-3 NLU लें या फिर हम किसी प्राइवेट कॉलेज के लिए ऑप्ट करें। So today I am here to discuss this common doubt with you. If you are facing this during the counseling session, then I think this video is the perfect one for you. I have divided the video into 5 major categories which should be your point of consideration while deciding Tier-3 NLU or a private college. So see, both of them have their own advantages and disadvantages. At the end of the video, I think you would be able to answer to yourself whether you want to go to a Tier-3 NLU or a private institution. The first thing is, there is a stigma attached to a private institution that it is not good enough. But what are the parameters of deciding whether it is good or not? The first is understanding what is a Tier-3 NLU and what are good private colleges in India. So first, when I talk about Tier-3 NLUs, I mean the NLUs which are newly formed. NLUs such as Tripura, NLU Sonipat and Silvassa campus of GNLU. These are the newly formed NLUs which may or may not produce as good lawyers as other NLUs. But what you have to understand is that they still have the brand value and the tag value of NLU. The second point is, what is exactly a private institution that is worthy of competition with an NLU? When I'm talking about private institutions, I talk about institutions like Symbiosis, OP Jindal, Christ University and so on, which provide world-class facilities to aspiring lawyers. Now delving into what could be the criteria of deciding. The first would be the brand value. Obviously, if you want to get into internships, good corporate firms, NLU holds that tag for you. However, if you wish to pursue something in international law or you wish that the brand must give you a support, that would also come from a private institution like Christ University or Symbiosis. There is also international recognition with many private colleges. However, the NLUs, the Tier-3 NLUs, lack that recognition in the international sphere. The second deciding criteria must be the faculty and the peer group. Even though the faculty at NLU would be highly qualified, the faculty would be more engaging in a private college. The second thing, the peer group, would be a very important aspect. So when you talk about the peer group, every person getting into an NLU would get NLU because they would have studied better for their exam, and somehow that would affect the mental capacity that they have, the thinking ability that they have. The gentry that you get in an NLU will always be different from what you get into a private college. However, when you get into a private college, there would be people who would be more active in law. They might not be very strong mentally or not having that mental aptitude, but nevertheless would have more competitive spirit in them because they would not commit that mistake again of missing out on golden opportunities. The third important criteria for you would be the placements that the college provides. So any person who's getting into a Tier-3 NLU must know this for a fact that placements in Tier-3 NLUs are not very good. You do get placed, but that is all due to the tag of NLU. However, the campus does not really have an active role in the placements of the students. However, when we look onto the private institutions, we see that they are actively involved in the placements of the students and they're proactively trying the students to get into top law firms in India and across the globe. So you would get good placements comparatively in the private institutions. But in both the cases, you have to remember that the placements will be student driven and not spoon fed to you. The fourth point of consideration is the alumni network. Alumni play an important role in guiding you and also paving a path for you where they have already trodden. So, somebody hailing from an NLU is more likely to get you a good connection rather than a private institution alumni. The alumni network speaks loudly for the success of the institution. So another factor of consideration would be, since Tier 3 NLUs are recently coming into picture, there would not be a good alumni network because there would be less batches who would have graduated before your batch. And that is why that is another point which should concern you. However, the private institutions that we talked about were in existence far before the newly formed NLUs existed. So, the alumni group would have existed and would have also succeeded into many domains which can pave great path for you in the future. Final and a very important deciding criteria is the fees. So when we talk about the Tier 3 NLUs, comparing their fees to the private institution's fees could range twice or thrice that of NLU. But if you're comfortable with that, you should not hold back on the private institution just because the fees is lesser in NLUs. So if you're still unsure at the end of this video, I will give you 3 questions to ponder upon. The answer to these 3 questions will ultimately help you decide which institution would be better. The first, where would you grow more as a learner? The second, can you afford the fees without being burdened? The third, which institution would provide you better exposure and guidance? And I think all of these questions will ultimately help you deciding your future better by yourself. Thank you, all the best, and you can comment down below if you still need my help. Thank you.